the great expanse. Australia is an unfathomably large place. Our numbers may be few, but our stories resonate the length and breadth of this wide brown land. The common threads of the rich, vast tapestry that is the Australian identity. Today, one of those stories will take us from the Midwestern region of New South Wales to the heart of central Queensland. Intrinsically linked, we're all products of our environment, the company we keep, and the knowledge that we seek. Framed in the backdrop of the formative events and times of the Eureka stockade and the Great Shearers Strike, Henry Lawson's prose captured the character of a nation. On today's episode of One Town at a Time, we tell a classic underdog tale in Lawson, son of a suffragette, as we follow the thread behind the development of Lawson's character and the struggles of the virtual single mother who raised him contended with, as we learn of how far we've come and realise how far there is to go as a civilised nation. Today's episode of One Town at a Time is brought to you by livingartlifestyle.com. Travel-inspired artisanal lifestyle homewares, giftwares, designer fashion and jewellery.
If you see more ways to live your life than you could ever dream, pack your bags, hit the road. One town at a time, girl, come on, let's go, let's go.
Yep, definitely feel like a big kid as I get to wander around this great big country of ours, exploring. Check that out. Couple of big hollow trees for you to go and hide out in with the kids as you play hide and go seek in this great family park, Lawson Park in Mudgee in the Midwestern region here in New South Wales.
The name is said to derive from the Wiradjuri words Muthi, meaning nest in the hills, and Mauji, meaning contented. The vibrant township of Mudgee can be found 270 kilometres northwest of Sydney. A fellow by the name of Robert Hoddle designed the village, which was gazetted on January 12, 1838, with the area from Mudgee to Mullamuddy declared a municipality on February 21, 1860, making it the second town settled west of the Great Dividing Range. In 1851, the population of Mudgee was 200. However, the population exploded with the discovery of gold in nearby Hargraves, leading to the gold rush in New South Wales. While no gold was found in Mudgee itself, the town prospered as gold was discovered in nearby towns such as Gulgong, Hill End and Windermere, making Mudgee a centre for the local goldfields, growing rapidly as a result.
By 1851, the word had rung out. There's gold in them the hills in the land of the south. There's many an old night of the pick and spade, lest we forget the Eureka stockade.
Gulgong's famous for a number of things. Henry Lawson spent quite a bit of time here growing up, and subsequently it's known as the $10 town. The old $10 note, of course, featuring Gulgong and Mr. Lawson, Wales. And it's actually named from the Wiradjuri tribe or clan of local Aboriginals here in the region, and Gulgong actually means deep water hole. Now this is a gold rush town. There was, probably still is, gold in them there hills here in the Great Dividing Range, and established in the 1870s. It was known as a poor man's diggings town. Basically, for those in the gold rush that didn't have a lot of capital investment to come in and they'd try their luck and sell their wares, so to speak. It is a gorgeous little hamlet of around 3,000 people. Great wine growing, olive growing and farming region, as well as a big coal mining region as well.
One of the miners attracted to the district by the gold rush was a bloke called Niels Peter Lawson, who married a woman by the name of Louisa in Mudgee in 1866. changing their names to Peter and Louisa Lawson with the birth of their son Henry in Grenfell, 1867. You can find these colonial ruins on Henry Lawson Drive, 8 kilometres north of Mudgee, in a place called Eureka, known as Pipeclay in Lawson's time.
I'm standing out the front of Henry Lawson's childhood home, one of our greatest poets, and you know, there's plenty of history you can see out here on the road whilst visiting some Australian small towns.
Many of Lawson's stories and poems are framed in the Mudgee district scenery, where he grew till the age of 15.
A place called Eureka on the outskirts of Mudgee in the beautiful wine growing region around here. It is really stunning and vibrant. You can see why a lot of tourist organisations are pointing you in this direction. It is a gorgeous little hamlet nestled here in the hills of the Great Dividing Range. Good old Henry Lawson, his first work was 1st of October 1877, a song for the Republic at the grand old age of 20. So he knew what was up way back then.
So we must fly a rebel flag as others have before us. And we must sing a rebel song and join in rebel chorus.
Whilst Lawson's prose is lauded by literary romanticists, Henry's mother Louisa played an equally, if not more so, prolific role in the maturation of the Australian identity as a central figure in the Australian suffragette movement.
Today we're in the small outback Queensland town of Barcaldine to visit one of the greatest cultural resources that you can find anywhere in the outback, the Australian Workers Heritage Centre. Celebrating Australian workers of all descriptions, the Australian Workers Heritage Centre is a fabulous place to spend a couple of days, an amazing resource for you to learn all about the Australian cultural identity.
And memories won't be forgotten. Those diggers who took up arms underneath the Southern Cross.
So Sasha,
Yes.
what's all this about?
Well, this is about the women who made Australia what it is today. The women in history that, made a big difference. It's so good to see that the women of Australia that have made a real difference are actually being represented here. We need to remember how far we've actually come. For instance, this amazing woman here, Louisa Lawson, who is known for being, of course, Henry Lawson's mum, but she was also too one of the major fighters for women's rights in Australia. It's wonderful to see her represented here.
She and son Henry edited what was considered a radical pro-federation newspaper called The Republican in 1887 and 1888, which was printed on an old press in Louisa's cottage.
A story of sedition, a slaughter, a war, corruption and oppression, tyrants at the door.
The Republican called for an Australian Republic uniting under the flag of a federated Australia, the Great Republic of the Southern Seas.
Let's ain't the one, and memories won't be forgotten.
But it was Louisa's preceding publication, The Dawn, and the subsequent founding of the Dawn Club in 1889 that was to have the most impact, becoming the hub of the suffrage movement in Sydney. The New South Wales Women's Suffrage League formed in 1891 to campaign for women's suffrage, and Lawson allowed the League to use the Dawn office to print pamphlets and literature free of charge. In 1902, when the New South Wales Womanhood Suffrage Bill was passed, giving women the vote, Louisa Lawson was introduced to the members of Parliament as the mother of suffrage in New South Wales.
So what kind of effect has learning about these women had on you?
It's actually, for me, it's actually made me realise how far women have come. Of the discrimination that my own mum spoke about, when she was around in the 70s. So it's wonderful for these women to actually be remembered and acknowledged, because it was a big struggle for them and they made a big difference to, you know, a lot of the equality that we know today.
A victory won by a battle lost for the cause. A victory won by a battle lost for the cause. The war was, the war was, battle lost for the cause. The war was, the war was, battle lost for the cause. Sticking to my guns.
Take your time, know your name. Dark of night, light of day. Tears of joy, tears of pain. As we dance, dance in the rain. Oh, it's pouring down.
Living Art Lifestyle, the love of your life.